Right. So hello everyone. Again, welcome to our maybe last lecture for GAMPROG GAMPROG for BASPROG2, right? Because this last lecture is well technically we can also have one more abstraction. But yeah, today we'll be talking about polymorphism, which will help in the final project with when we create different classes and whatnot, right? I mean, what? Sige, we can make this the last one. What happens is we can probably have next week as maybe for consultation in case you want to, if you have a question or you um you want to have it checked right away, and then I can give your feedback right away, right? Because you can do that. Ever since naman this term, you could do that naman. Okay. Next, may utang pa ako sa inyo for the previous quiz. I will check it af later, later tomorrow. I'll check it tomorrow, and I will also release that by tomorrow. And then for the previous exercises and quizzes, um, I can release the exercises again. Um, I could change it in a bit. As long as you try to answer it and you submit it, I can give you a perfect grade for exercises. But for quizzes, the highest I can give though is just the passing, right? So what does that mean? If you check, I'm not gonna show you grades. If you check your grades, supposedly 70% is quizzes, 20% is nope, 10% is exercises, and final project is 20%. So let's compute this. If I give exercises, let's say implying you do all your exercises, that's 10 points. Then for your quizzes though, it is 70%. If the highest I can give you is just passing, which is 70%, that leaves you around 49 points, right? So 49 plus 10, you have 59. That means in order for you to pass, you need at least 11 points on your final project. 60, 70. Yes. Okay. Right. That's the math. Uh so what's gonna happen is I will re-enable the submission of the exercises. All the previous exercises that I scored and is not perfect, I will perfect it naman. Um for the quizzes, uh I will open it again. All quizzes. But again, the highest you can get is just passing. For the people who have already passed their quiz, I mean, yung mga nagpasa ng ganun is already above passing grade. There's no use for you to do it. Um, no need. You don't really, yeah. I mean, there's no use for you to resubmit. I mean, unless you really want to perfect it, sure. But I can't change your grade because you're already above passing. Okay. So that's what's gonna happen. So starting tomorrow, and I'll end it this time next week. Right? Any questions or concerns for that? Any violent reaction? But next week around this time, so 6 p.m. 8 what's this? 7, 10, 13? August 13th? Is that 7 days from now? August 13 of this time, 6 p.m. All right. Any other more questions or concerns about this? None? Okay naman kayo? Sure? Wala kayong reaction? Violent reaction? Okay. Sige. If that's the case, um, does anyone have any questions or concerns or questions about last week's meeting or any questions about the quiz? Oh, sorry, final project. None. No questions about what did we talk about last week? Was it inheritance? Oops, oops, oops. Sorry, inheritance. Yeah. No questions on inheritance. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No questions about that from last week. None. See. Okay, so if there's no questions, then I guess we can go ahead and talk about the upcoming topic, which is polymorphism. So, if you remember, OOP is made out of four pillars. They actually also asked this in job interviews. OOP has four pillars. We have polymorphism, abstraction, inheritance, and encapsulation. We have talked about encapsulation. We have talked about inheritance. Now we have the last two, polymorphism and abstraction. So we'll be talking about polymorphism. If you have a question while I'm teaching, feel free to soundboard or say something so that I can check because I only have one screen with me. Okay, so polymorphism. What do you what do you from the word itself, polymorphism? What are you thinking of? Doesn't have to be code related. Like it can be anything. What's the first thing comes in mind when you say polymorphism? Anyone? New form, changing one thing to another, transform. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. So, right, so we have different kinds of things. So from the word polymorphism, we have to polymorph, to change from one thing to another, or something like that. Or to try to copy one thing to another, to polymorph. Uh, so in code, when with polymorphism, it's like you're able to use things from the the other class or parent, the parent class. You're able to use functions and whatever from the parent class. You polymorph it into uh you polymorph the parent class to something else. So that's polymorphism. So, for example, when you create a party, uh let's go back to our OOP. When we create a party, so remember we have Archer class. What do we have here? And Killer Bunny. We can technically put them. Oops. We can technically put them into a vector of unit. party, right? So we can do like party dot ano ito? Pushback. We can do this, and we can also do this. Why is that though? I have a vector of unit, but why am I able to add the archer and the killer bunny? This will not run an error. The reason why I'm able to do this because again, archer class and the killer bunny class comes from unit, right? So technically they are still unit. Hence I am able to do this. I can also call um, certain functions from unit. Let's say move. I can call move from archer and also killer bunny because again they come from unit. So vector is defined to contain units only, but we were able to add those nga, archer and bunny. So since they share the behavior of the base classes, we can call the shared methods collectively, like so. So we can see that what if you want all your units to attack or something? Then you can just inside the party, right? So you'll be like for I is equal to 0, I less than party dot size, I plus plus. You can go party I dot move. So you can do this. Oops, I remove pala the ano, yung pushback ko. Right. I can do this. Because they're all again, they're all sharing methods from unit. And same thing with other stuff. Maybe not just at a move, we have also attack, we have HP and whatnot. Because they're all sharing from unit. So since archer is a unit, the archer can be identified with a more generic identity, which is unit. So this is called polymorphism, at least half of polymorphism. Archer, so parang siyang ano, isa nga. Archer is a unit. You can it is you can call its properties, its functions and whatnot. So that's polymorphism. At least half of polymorphism. In the real world, uh real world conversations is polymorphic most of the times. So we do not explicitly tell every detail as long as there's enough context. What does that mean? Um for example, uh like if we talk about, let's see, well it's gonna be our example later. Let's talk about the like getting a perimeter from of an object. We just say we get the perimeter. We don't tell them exactly how to get the perimeter because for each object it's different. For a circle, it is uh, pi pi times pi 2 pi r, right? Or pi times the diameter. For triangles, it is uh, what's triangles? Well, side one, side two, side whatever. For square, it is four times the side, four times yung isang side, right? So it is general. We don't tell them exactly what it is, but we know uh we know the general idea. So when we say get the parameter, it's all different. We do it differently because that's how it is. They're all shapes. They're all under shapes. Shapes has a perimeter. Shapes has areas, but how we get it is different. So that's where polymorphism comes into play. So why do we need this? It makes the conversation faster and more efficient. It's trying to tell every little detail. So, however, it's not perfect. There will be cases where you need more context. So this is where polymorphism comes in. Polymorphism is about generalizing things and adding context if necessary. What does this mean? Uh, we all know, we all know shapes has a. Wait, not all shapes. Right, shapes all has a perimeter. It all has a area. But how we get it is where we add the additional context. Another, let's say, let's go with another, like first person shooters, like guns. Sure, every gun has a amount of bullets, the uh maybe has functions for shooting, has functions for reloading, but every gun or most guns has a different way of reloading or shooting. They have different kinds of mechanisms, whatever, right? So there's that. Uh, we have the general idea of it. We have things that it shares, but how it does things, that's where it's all different. Questions? Clarification? None? Okay. So yeah, example. What is there of the shape? So like I said, shape all has a area and perimeter. However, how you get it is different. For like for square, if you want to get the area, it is side squared. Like the value of the length of a side squared. For triangles, it's one half base times height. For circle, it's pi r squared. So they're all different, but they have a similar thing, getting the area. Or I mean, they have similar thing that they all have an area, and all they also have a perimeter. Or how about in games? Either League of Legends or Dota or even Valorant. All okay. Let's go with okay. What do you want? Valorant or League of Legends? I haven't. I don't play Dota. I only know Valorant or League of Legends. League. Okay, let's go with League. So League of Legends. Yeah, of course you have Ash, right? Iba-iba yung mga skills niya. Q is okay. Let's change. I know the old one. Let's go with. It's been a while. Also, Yasuo Q. The Leo stabs his sword. It's W. I think W is the wall. Oh my god. Okay, forgot all those. Anyway, they all have those skills. Q W E R. However, a different champion also has Q W E R, but they all do something else. So they all share skills. They all share that the idea that they all have skills, but the what each skill does is different. Make sense? Like unit. They all also share the properties. They have HP. They have defense, whatnot. But maybe their skills are different, or how their skills work is different. So there's that. So that's where polymorphism comes into play, uh, where we will do something. We will call this. We will oh my god, sorry. With polymorphism, we will give it additional context. So yun nga. Tiny and Pudge, two different two different um, units in Dota, but they share the idea that they have skills. And not only that, uh, each hero also, each unit also has items and whatnot. So for units in Dota, they share the idea that they have six equipments. They also share that they have a actual model, an actual character. They share the HP, they share the MP, they all have that. They also share the idea of skills. But they are what changes is the yung laman nun, ang laman ng model, ano yung laman ng items, ano yung laman ng mga skills niya. They're all different. Questions? None. Okay. So it's impossible for the code as well. In this case, let's say you created a unit, a child class of unit called Tiny, and a child class of unit called Pudge. They have two different skills, but the thing is, unit is not able to call the these functions. Bakit? Because this function avalanche is under Tiny. So Tiny has avalanche, but unit does not have any any idea of what Tiny has. It only knows is what it has. Tiny, on the other hand, knows what's inside unit because it is a child class, and it has additional functions like avalanche. Same thing with Pudge. Pudge has the functions and properties of unit, and it has an additional function, meet hook. However, unit has no access to this. It doesn't know. It doesn't know the meet hook. So if you try to do this, it will show a error. So similar thing. Remember, Archer has where's Archer? Has strafe, right? So you'll see that Archer has strafe, but Boar does not have strafe because Boar is just a unit. Okay, so we can kind of hack this though. So how? If we have like use skill from unit. Uh, let's see, where's that? Unit. Let's say we have a function here like void use skill. What we will do is if name is equal to killer bunny, we will be like killer. Let me include it. You would have like killer bunny. Bunny is equal to this. Oops. Killer bunny. So I'll teach you about this later. And then bunny crosscutter. Or we'll be like else if name is equal to archer. If it is archer, then we be like archer. Archer is equal to archer. Oh, sorry. Archer class dot h. Archer class, this, and then Archer strafe. So what do you see a problem here? What problem do you see from doing this? Anyone? Because technically this will work as long as we name it right. As long as the name is a killer bunny, then okay, we'll use the bunny's crosscutter. Anyone? Do you see any problem here? Uh, don't mind this one. Let's just say now we're able to transform it, transform the unit into killer bunny. So don't mind that. But anyone, what do you see a problem here? Well, you have to account for an if else for every single different name field. Exactly. So that's the problem. What if we start adding new units? That means under unit, you would have more else if. And name, maybe let's put the pudge thing already. And then you have the pudge, whatever. And so on and so forth. That's a problem because unit will just keep growing and growing until all the all the classes have been covered. So what if let's just use skill? Maybe we have another function. And then we also have the same thing where we have to check for its class. And it's gonna be hell. Not only for you, but for anyone who's gonna be reading this. So it's gonna be a problem. Right. So now it's possible since the function I would access only data, but this will get worse. So yeah. Like like what you said, it will just keep getting worse. So yeah, how do we execute skill on Q? So it'll look like this if the player has pressed Q. Then you're gonna check if the name is tiny, then you do the tiny. If the name is fudge, you do the fudge. It'll be a problem because again, so on and so forth. That's only for Q. Panning W mo, then the same thing. But if you press W, then also have the same thing. It's gonna be very hellish for you to code. Parang ano, I don't know. Never mind. Bad. Never mind. But yeah, you get my point. It just keep growing and growing, which is bad. So is inheritance useless then? So in the previous slide, it seems like inheritance made it harder, where we have to do this, no? So why would you inherit if you can't access methods exclusive to the derive type, right? Kasi like in Archer, Archer only has a strafe, but it's only exclusive for Archer class. So why do that? Why not put strafe in unit? Oops, I in the unit header file, right? But same thing. The moment you put all the other functions of like say killer bunny or pudge or maybe trash, put on Timo, whatever, we put it to unit, unit will just keep growing and growing. And it's gonna be hard to maintain. So inheritance actually doesn't work if you don't use polymorphism along with it. So there's no such thing as you know how to use inheritance and not know how to use polymorphism. So it's both or not at all. So when you start creating child classes and whatnot, you will be using inheritance and polymorphism together. There's no way you're just gonna use one of it. It just is. If you're using only one of it, then there's might be something wrong. Like, uh, let's say archer. I create a archer class, the child class of unit, but I don't change anything. I just want to change the values. Now that's a bad thing. What you want is when you try to create a child class, it should have something different. There should be a reason why you did it. Maybe it has additional methods, like additional functions. So there's that. If it's just properties, different values for properties, there's no reason to create a child class. Questions? None? None? Okay. So how to use polymorphism? So the base class must be something abstract without any context, such as item, weapon, skill, quest. So this is the most broad thing. Technically, weapon can also be under item, but it depends. Maybe you want items to just be usable, then okay, weapon is not under item. But you get the point. You have the very base class, like unit. Unit is an abstract class. It has the properties, it has some functions, but uh, all the units will be using that. Maybe for item, besides the item name, you also have maybe it has value for heals or something. That's the abstract. That's the pinaka base class. Or like skills. Skills have cooldowns, amount of mana required to cast it, the name, right? So all the skills share that. Um, quest, same thing. Quest, the duration of the quest, the amount of money you get from the quest, etc., etc. So those are abstract. So prepare a base class with just the base data and functionalities. These data and functionalities must make sense for all derived types. So mark the part of the base class which needs context before it makes sense. Questions? None. So you saw a while ago this. So I'm going to talk about it muna. What's happening here is, like I said a while ago, you're trying to convert one thing to another. In this case, we're trying to convert unit, which is a unit class. We're trying to convert it to tiny. So that's what you call typecasting. So typecasting consists of two things: upcasting or downcasting. So when you upcast, you are changing from a more complete the child class to the base class. Or in other words, you're trying to change the the higher level the oh yeah, I think it was better. You're trying to change the child class to parent class. That's upcasting. Pataas. Because the child class has all the functionalities and properties of its parent class. So it's 100% safe. So implicit OAS is more common. With polymorphism, we can always work with the base type. Ayun. Downcasting, however, is you a you're trying to make the parent class into a child class. And this doesn't always work because what if you're trying to uh downcast a class into another class, but yung pala they're not, they're like from child class to child class. Parang hindi siya gagana or something like that. There could be problems. Like in this case, uh from unit, we immediately try to change it to tiny. But the thing is, unit doesn't have any data of tiny. I mean additional context like the skills or whatnot. Unit doesn't have that. All it has is the properties. All it has is some functionalities like moving, whatnot. But it doesn't have, let's say, the skills. It doesn't have the additional functions. In this case, this may crash. Tiny arrow avalanche. Okay, questions? Clarification? Okay, for example nga, parang ito. What I did is I pushed back Archer and Killer Bunny. Upcasting is saying unit u unit unit is equal to unit Archer. Remember, Archer came from unit, so this is upcasting from a more complicated module to a simpler module, something like that. Downcasting, however, is doing something like party ah, um, Archer class art 2 is equal to party 0 or 1. And of course, don't forget to add this here. Okay, so why does this work? Again, party is a vector of unit, and we are trying to change unit into Archer class. It doesn't show any errors here, but what if whatever's in the index of 1 is not Archer class? Then there's going to be a problem. You're trying to change, let's say, uh, you're trying to change Killer Bunny into Archer class, which not really happening. Kahit na galing sila from unit, they are different classes. Okay, so I'll show you here. Oops. Arch 2, straight. Let's see if this will run. Archer, strafe. So we're saying party 1. I mean, whatever's in the first index. We try to cast it or change it into Archer class. There should be an error popping up. Uh, what happened? Ah, sorry. What happened here? Archer 2. Oh, Archer 2. Party 0. Killer Bunny. Hold on. Why did this work? Archer 1. Strafe. Ah, right. This works because it's just scout. It's just C outing. But maybe if we start adding like the weapon, about like a weapon name, then this becomes a problem because wait. Hi. No, not here. Archer class. There's no weapon here. Let's put num. Does it have weapon? Archer class. Oh, we have a weapon. But yeah, there. Error. Because we tried to change. Wait, no. Okay. We tried to change Party 1, which is Killer Bunny. We tried to change Killer Bunny into Archer class. It There was an error because Killer Bunny has nothing, has zero idea of weapon. Because weapon is from Archer class. Killer Bunny does not have that one. Hence, it shot out the error. Anyway, so that's why downcasting is a bit more tricky. You have to make sure that if you're going to go downcast, you're only using methods that are available from the parent class. Questions? Okay. So yeah, since our data type is Juggernaut now, we can use methods exclusive to Juggernaut like Blade Fury. Program will crash since the actual object is Miranda. So yeah. Uh-huh. So when you cast an instance of a class, the actual object doesn't really change. You're literally just trying to name it a different class and try to call um, methods and behavior in that other class. But we didn't really change it. We didn't change the class at all. So downcasting to a different type will not give the object new data and behavior. So like you saw a while ago, it will crash if a non-existent data is accessed. So we try to access weapon, but again, Archer. Killer Bunny is not from Archer class. So error siya. So typecasting only changes the accessibility of the object. The more general the data type, the more restrictive it is. So typecasting only tells the compiler how it should view the object. It's like putting on a mask. Uh, right. So it's like we're just giving it a class. We're just trying to name it as a different class where we're gonna see if it works or not. And this did not work because Killer Bunny has no weapon, and we tried to access something that's null. So error. So an object's underlying type is permanently set upon instantiation. That means the moment you created Archer class Archer, this is forever an Archer class. So to test it out, uh, let me just get something here. Num arrow. Wait now. Num arrow. Let me just get num arrows. So I'll show you something here. Oops. Return m num arrows. Okay. So watch this. Um, from Archer, I made it a unit, and then from unit, I'm gonna make it to Archer. Archer 2 is equal to Archer class unit, and then Arch2 get calc Arch2 num. So we casted it into unit, and then from unit we tried to downcast to Archer, and this should bring out the right answer still, 10. Because it has always been a archer class. It didn't lose its identity at all between this. Because we were just trying to say that, okay, archer is now unit. We're just giving it a face. Questions? Clarification? None? And then finally for this one, yeah, protected access modifier. Uh, like I said before, protected data members and methods are only accessible from the class itself and its derived class. You cannot access it from outside. So all data members and methods should be private until there's a reason to make it protected. So, yeah, I think I did say this before. Ish, not always may protected. There only comes some special times where you need to make it protected because maybe you need to use that function. Not change, not use pala, but yeah, use that function in the derive or child class. Questions? Clarification? None? Okay. So, how do we use polymorphism more? Right now, we only have half of it, where we say that we can morph the archer class to unit, and then from unit to archer class. That's all we have right now. But we can talk about the other half, which is applying the polymorphism. So applying the polymorphism solves the shape problem. So name can be encoded, number of sites can be encoded, area area becomes different for each shape. We need to change how it solves for the area. That's why context required becomes a formula because formula differs for each shape. So polymorphism beginner virtual functions. So what we can do is uh let's skip the shape. What we can do is for archer for unit, you will have use skill. Oh, we already started nga pala, no? Unit, right? But instead of this, it will just be blank. Not only that, we will have virtual. So the moment you make it a virtual, this becomes a function that you can change its functionality in the different child classes. What does that mean? So right here we have virtual void use skill. In archer class, where's that public? Yeah. In archer class, we can go void use skill override. That means we are about to override use skill. So let's test it out. Let's put a count here. Archer uses use skill, but in unit use skill. So let's try that out. Archer. Oops. Okay. So archer. Oh, archer use skill. So instead of saying unit use skill, it will now be archer use skill. For the boar, we say use skill, it should appear as unit use skill. Okay, so that is we are trying to override it. We are trying to override the um functionality. We're giving it more context. So this is what it looks like for client code. Yeah, not gonna do this. But is there any questions about what I just said about this? Anyone? Any questions? So again, unit. If I want, let's say first for the unit, for the skill, we can make it virtual so that since again each skill is different for each unit, uh, we will just override it like what we did in Archer class. Archer class, we override it. Questions about this or clarification? None. So yeah, base type can only assume that all shapes has an area. However, it doesn't have enough context to produce it. Because again, all shapes have a different way of getting the area. In this case, for the square, we override it. We have a m length times m length, or the side squared. Or maybe for triangle, it's again 1/2 base times height. So the area, when you override it, it should be 1/2 the base times height, etc. So derived type can provide context by overriding virtual methods. Questions? Questions about using polymorphism? I think there's still more pa. Yeah, there's more. But you know naman yung virtual and override. Those are one of the two important topics. I mean, sorry. Super important keywords. Virtual and override. So instead of reaching the derived types, notice that only the code we added was populating the vector with shapes. Square, rectangle, circle, area. We don't need if statements to add new functionality. Right? So we don't need the one a while ago. Dito, yung parang if else, we don't need that. This is it. We will just override it in the child classes. No questions still? All good? Sure kayo ah. Okay. So advanced. Polymorphism advanced. Abstract classes. So implementing virtual function doesn't make sense. Because since the shape by itself, you can't really get the area because what is a shape? A shape can be anything. It can be just squiggly lines as long as it's closed the end reaches the other end, right? That's a shape. But then the getting the area, it's not the same. So there's no There's no sense. Sometimes there's no sense in implementing virtual functions. Depends. So returning the default value for something that requires context doesn't really make sense. So the answer to the question, what is the area of the shape, should be, I don't know, or it depends, not zero. Okay, so there's no reason for this. So abstract function and pure virtual. The equals zero syntax denotes the method is a pure virtual function or an abstract function. So abstract function doesn't have any implementation until the derived class overrides it. So what does this mean is when you say abstract, we don't need to do this anymore. It's not gonna prompt you now, hey, area is not here. Can you fit it up? Di na kailangan. The moment you do this, you don't have to anymore. It becomes abstract. It can be anything. Okay. So abstract function becomes concrete once overridden by the derived class. So it doesn't make any sense for a function to have any implementation, make it abstract. Okay? So like get the area or parameter. At the very start, getting the parameter uh is not the same for every shape. So same thing. You can make it abstract. You can just not give any context to it yet. You can just do it in the child classes. All right? Questions? Not? Sure. If you have any questions, feel free. I'm not gonna judge you or anything. If not, again, you can always just message. So here, a class that has at least one abstract function is defined as an abstract class. So an abstract class cannot be instantiated. Why? Because we are missing a functionality if um in the class, because there's a function that doesn't do anything. It's missing. So it cannot be instantiated. There's no logical sense instantiating shape, but it makes sense instantiating a square. If the derived class did not override at least one abstract function, the derived class will stay abstract. And finally, a class derived from an abstract class will become concrete upon implementing all abstract functions. Okay, so in order for an abstract class to be concrete, you will have to make it a child class and give functionalities to those um, functions. Abstract functions, yeah. For example, if I created add where are we at? Archer, killer, warrior. Warrior comes from unit. Not using. Using. Sorry, not using. Include. So we can go like void. Oops. Virtual void test. Right. Right now, this is now an abstract function. And if you try to do this, include warrior class. Warrior is equal to New warrior. And there it is. Because it is a abstract class. Okay? Right now, because it can be anything. But as of now, it is nothing. Only until you override it in the child class, then okay na. Questions? Overload? Kinda. Okay. Last slide. Choosing between virtual and abstract. For virtual has a default implementation. You can give it some data or whatnot. So pwede siya. It has optional overriding. You're not required to override it at all. We can still build the the game. Sorry, the program, even though you're overriding nothing. I mean, you're not overriding anything. Okay lang. Base class can be instantiated. Yeah. However, for abstract, it has no default implementation. It is blank in the get-go. It requires overriding. If you do not override, you're not be able to use your the the or yet right. Requires overriding. If you don't override it, you're not going to be able to use it. The class. Kailangan you need to override it. You need to create a child class and override the abstract function. Next, prevent base class from being instantiated. Yeah. Strict forces other programs to do a certain thing. Right. What does this mean? If I put this test, in case I need to reuse warrior or make a child class of warrior, I have to override the test. Uh, I have to override it so it will not be a abstract class anymore. Right. So you're like forcing them to do something else. Okay, questions? Clarification? None? All good? Okay, so maybe kind of huge to take in, but an important thing here lang is virtual and override because they're the very, very useful keywords in polymorphism and inheritance. They're very useful so that you don't have to do if else under unit. Is it here? I know, nawala na. You wouldn't have to do that anymore. Okay, so last. No questions or clarification? Okay. Sige. So if there's no questions, again, feel free. Feel free to message me. You can message me here. You can email me. Fine with anything. If you have maybe questions for your project but not sure, just message me. I will respond to you naman. Okay. So again, starting tomorrow, all your all your exercising quizzes will show up. Exercises, we get perfect. Quizzes, you can only get passing. Okay, so yeah, that's it for today. Again, just message if you have any questions. feel free to just message me. Okay, so yeah, that's it for today. You guys can go and enjoy your night.